was No. Yeah.
Oh, they were doing something with the other lot. Yeah,
We had these giant rock formations, we had a wood shed. One garage, got rid of the wood. The guy went through us 10 months. No,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well, you have two people in the property. Is that okay?
I think we moved it.
No, it's gotta be moved more. It's supposed to move back. Got rid of the wood.
Yeah, we moved it back.
Yeah, John, wood, go on.
Oh, we're almost there.
Yeah, we're not.
It's fine.
This one's.
Yeah, but the pictures were hard.
Yeah, I couldn't see the picture either.
That's not.
I woke up, he was in the.
No. This is the,
I didn't even.
their application. Yeah. Yeah. You guys got this on an email. Yeah.
He was sleeping in the car outside waiting.
Hey, you guys can hear me?
Sure.
You guys are speaking in my.
Yes, we can.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Rob? Long time no
Good.
see.
Miss you guys.
Yeah. Paul's been doing a fine job.
Excellent. Couldn't pick a nicer guy.
Oh, truly. Oh, no, my fault. I can wait.
Oh, that's right.
I'm sure you got them. Sure, sure. Like to call to order the zoning board of appeals, town of Lloyd, November meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome all. The exits are to your rear, both sides. Please turn your cell phone to silent. All right, we're gonna go out of order just a little bit. One of our members has prior engagement that he may need to leave to get to, so we're going to do old business first. If Trevor, area variance for EA Court, SBL 86.4-3-9.1. Applicant Trevor, if you is the owner of the property located at 48 Court with an SBL of 8.4-3-9.1. The parcel is located on the west side of Falcon Drive and is an agricultural zoning district. At this time, Mr. Hughes seeks to annex a 25-foot parcel of land from the adjoining Glen property to create a 2-lot subdivision, each with 50-foot of road frontage and 25-foot wide access parcel. He will still only serve 2 individual lots. Some driveway will exit directly onto Falcon Drive. To accomplish the subdivision, the applicant is seeking area variance from the zoning board of appeals for relief from the town code section 100-14-4. Flag lots for a subdivision of 4 or fewer lots, only 1 flag lot shall be permitted. Okay, so to refresh everybody's memory, at the last meeting, we had the attorney draft a resolution that we voted on well, we voted to have him draft the resolution, which he did, which we all have in an email, and everyone has had a chance to review it. Okay, I don't find any discrepancies, from our feelings to what he had drafted. So if the board is comfortable, I'd like to have Rob read it into the minutes for record, and then we will vote on it after that. I'll
Excuse me?
entertain a motion and move.
Is
Yes, Pat.
is the public hearing closed?
Yeah, actually, the public hearing was closed 61 days ago.
Is the applicant still allowed to discuss? I know I was not at the last meeting, and
Patty, I don't have a problem at all. If the applicant would like to come up and speak, you know, we're very willing to listen.
no, I appreciate that. I was not, as you know, able to attend the last meeting, and I did hear that there was a straw poll that had been, taken by the board, and that you had asked the attorney to draft a resolution, in the negative. I did subsequently submit additional information to the planning board, or excuse me, to the zoning board, with regard to the weight test. And I understand that I missed the meeting. I thought that at the prior meeting, the board was leaning towards granting the variance and had a concern about the, again, the benefit that the applicant would be receiving as opposed to the detriment that would be caused to the community. So, I don't obviously have a copy of the resolution, and I have no knowledge of what the weight test was, but I wondered if the zoning board did have the opportunity to review the weight test that we had prepared. You know, one of the things that I'm mostly concerned about is that there was, the supposition that all he needs to do is construct a rural road, but he doesn't own a 50-foot parcel, and therefore is not able to construct a rural road without the neighbor agreeing to that. Now, the neighbor agreeing to allowing 25 feet for the driveway to continue the way it is one thing. To increase that to a rural road, which would be wider and be more impactful. And I just wondered if the board was aware of that at the point in time that the decision was made, and whether, you know, that factor could weigh into it.
You're referring to the Clem property?
Yes.
Okay. Did the applicant already annex from the Clem property, or that's contingent on?
Right, the application before the board is the subdivision and lot line revision. We can't do the lot line revision without the subdivision. So without the zoning board granting the area variance for the two flag lots, the 25-foot will not be annexed. I did go through the current driveway maintenance agreement to see if there was a provision in there that that roadway would be converted or needed to be offered for dedication to the town, if somebody ever wanted to convert it to a town road, and that's absent in the driveway maintenance agreement. Sometimes that is the case, that it would be written in there, but it's not. So basically, at this point in time, the only alternative that the applicant does have is the second flag lot, because he doesn't have a right to put a rural roadway in somebody else's property. You know, I think that I guess I would like to discuss with the board what the sense was of the detriment that would be caused to the community that is not overweighed by the benefit that the applicant is seeking, because perhaps if it's a detriment that can be mitigated in some way, that would be an alternative to a denial.
John, I'm happy to read the resolution. Do you have an extra copy you could give to Patty to follow along?
Just gonna give her mine.
Okay.
Sarah, got one thing.
No, no extra copy I had.
Okay, so, Rob, I mean, we could read the resolution, and if the board, as we're going through it, if the board, has any questions, concerns, we can discuss it, and after the resolution is read, if we feel that there's any information that Patty has provided or will provide that would sway that decision or sway us in either way, you can pursue that at that time.
And John, I just want to be clear about something too. My understanding from reviewing the minutes and talking to Paul was that the vote that the board took at the last meeting wasn't a straw poll. It was their intention to make a decision at the last meeting. And tonight's exercise is to memorialize that which was decided at the last meeting. That said, I wasn't there, so I defer to you on that point.
Mhm.
I refresh my memory, because I thought we had done a straw poll. I could be wrong.
No, we voted on it, you read, all read,
Okay, so we did, okay, all right, very good. We did the balancing test, and we
voted,
directed him to prepare a resolution on our findings.
and we voted on it.
And then tonight, Rob, we just vote to ratify it, correct?
You're right. You would essentially be voting to confirm that the resolution as drafted matches the discussion at the last meeting, the decision reached at the last meeting.
So at that point, you're saying the board has no, recourse.
Yeah, I know, we haven't read, that's why I like.
No, we-
Yeah.
We definitely voted.
Can you just want to review it?
Just bear with me one second, John.
You know, I'm looking at, the character of the neighborhood. The creation of the second lot would establish a higher density of residential uses, which would be inconsistent with the existing neighborhood character. In addition, the proximity of the second flag lot to the existing adjacent residential use would be a detriment to the use and enjoyment of that property by the adjoining owner. With regard to increased density, we're talking about one more lot where 40 have already been approved. And the lot sizes adjacent and across the street from this are all under 2 acres in size, and we're proposing a lot that's larger than the 2 acres. So, I mean, I know that these things are sometimes subjective, and I know that there were concerns of the adjoining property owner, and that's why I'm saying if that was the impetus for the board decision, and there's some way that we can try to mitigate what the neighbor concern was, you know, that the applicant obviously is interested in doing that and being a good neighbor. That's what we're seeking the variance for, yes.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think you,
Okay,
I think
so
the other part was.
this becomes moot.
Yeah.
I'm remiss, we've already voted. This is just to affirm what we had voted on, the resolution that we had done last week. And I read these today and I missed it. So.
Yeah, I guess I had been told it was a straw poll, because then that gives the applicant the opportunity to withdraw the application, and the applicant was never even given that opportunity.
You're absolutely right. You usually do the straw poll, but the public hearing had been closed previous. So we actually voted on the resolution. Well, no, we went through the balancing test and we had him draft the resolution that we could, the verbiage we could vote on tonight. So that's where we're at. And it's 10 minutes, page 7. So, Rob, if you could read the draft resolution, please.
Sure. Resolution denying area variance to Trevor Depew, November 9th, 2022. Whereas on June 6th, 2022, Trevor Depew, the applicant, applied to the Town of Lloyd Zoning Board of Appeals for an area variance to subdivide property tax parcel SBL number 86.4-3-9.100 located at 4 Eagle Court in the Town of Lloyd, Ulster County, New York, the site into 2 flag lots. And whereas the site was created as a flag lot pursuant to a subdivision approved by the Town of Lloyd Planning Board in 2019 that consolidated a number of lots previously approved as part of a 2007 subdivision into 3 larger lots and eliminated road access to the lots comprising the site, resulting in the creation of the site as a flag lot. And whereas The site is located in an agricultural zoning district designated by the town of Lloyd zoning code, the zoning code. And whereas the applicant requires an area variance for a second flag lot pursuant to zoning code section 100-14-4, which limits subdivisions of 4 or fewer lots to a maximum of 1 flag lot. And whereas in addition to considering the application and other supporting information provided by the applicant in support of his request for an area variance, the ZBA has also received and considered public comment in opposition to the requested variance because of its potential effect on neighborhood character and adjacent properties. And whereas the ZBA closed the public hearing on the applicant's variance request at its September 8th, 2022 regular meeting, after hearing from the applicant and from neighboring property owners, and whereas the applicable standards for reviewing the applicant's requested area variance from the zoning code are set forth in New York State Town Law, section 267B3B, and whereas as required by New York State Town Law 267B3B, in making its determination on the applicant's variance application, the ZBA has applied a balancing test that takes into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. And whereas in applying the balancing test and standards required by New York State Town Law 267B3B, the ZBA makes the following findings. 1, pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3B1, granting the applicant an area variance for the creation of a second flag lot would produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and a detriment to nearby properties. Granting the requested variance would produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and a detriment to an adjoining residential property. The creation of the second flag lot would establish a higher density of residential uses, which would be inconsistent with the existing neighborhood character. In addition, the proximity of the second flag lot to the existing adjacent residential use would be a detriment to the use and enjoyment of that property by the adjoining owner. 2, pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3B2, the benefits sought by the applicant from the creation of a second flag lot cannot be achieved in a feasible way without the requested area variance. The applicant cannot achieve subdivision of the site into 2 flag lots in a feasible way absent the granting of the requested area variance for a second flag lot. While the construction of a town road to provide direct access to a second lot would avoid the need for a variance, the estimated cost of constructing a road to serve the second lot, approximately $220,000, is prohibitive and not feasible. 3, pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3B3, the requested variance is substantial. The applicant's request for a 100% increase in the number of flag lots created is substantial. 4, pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3B4, granting the requested variances would have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Granting the requested variance for a second flag lot would negatively impact the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Allowing a second flag lot would adversely affect the neighborhood character, which was built in compliance with the zoning code. As noted above, the creation of the second flag lot would establish a higher density of residential uses, which would be inconsistent with the existing residential neighborhood character. 5, pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3B5, the applicant's need for the requested area variance is a self-created difficulty. The applicant's request for a variance to allow the creation of a second flag lot is a self-created difficulty. The applicant purchased the site in 2020 as one parcel and should have known that the creation of a second flag lot would require an area variance from the ZBA. Thus, the applicant's difficulty arises from his own actions and is self-created. Whereas pursuant to the above findings in New York State Town Law 267B3B, the statutory balancing test demonstrates that the benefits of granting the requested variance are outweighed by the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood arising from such grant based on the following findings. 1, The ZBA acknowledges that granting the requested variance would allow the applicant the potential benefit of a second flag lot, subject to planning board approval of his proposed 2-lot subdivision. And 2, the ZBA believes that the benefit to the applicant of granting the requested area variance is outweighed by the detriment to the neighborhood and community that would occur from such grant because, as set forth above, granting the requested variances would, 1, produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and a detriment to the existing adjacent residential use, 2, be substantial, and 3, have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the existing neighborhood. Moreover, the applicant's difficulty is entirely self-created. And whereas the ZBA has the authority under zoning code section 156 and New York State Town Law 267B to approve or disapprove the requested area variance for the creation of a second flag lot. Now, therefore, be it resolved that consistent with the findings set forth above, the applicant's requested area variance from zoning code section 100-14-4 for the creation of a second flag lot is denied pursuant to New York State Town Law 267B3 and zoning code section 100-56. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be filed within the town of Lloyd, with the town of Lloyd clerk within 5 days of its adoption and a copy sent to the applicant. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption.
Thank you, Rob. So one thing I do want to go over or kind of amend for the feasibility. So the applicant had provided us with an estimate for road construction in the sum of $220,000. And as Patty has brought up, you could not build that road because he doesn't own it. He would have to also purchase that property or annex that property from someone else. So that also, it adds to it not being feasible.
Correct.
So I just want to add that in to the resolution that it makes it even more non-feasible for the road. All right.
Okay, I'll get that in there.
With that amendment, I'd like to entertain a motion. Bill, we have a second? Russ? Let's chair. Yes. Paul Gargiulo?
Yes.
Bill Brown?
Yes.
Russ Gilmore?
Yes.
Sean Zarafa? Yeah, did I get it right? Fine. Yeah. And Jessica just. Okay. Motion so carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Nicholas Cordy Farms LLC, area variance 67 South Street, SBL 87.3-1-16.112. Applicant is seeking an area variance to place a farm outbuilding in the front yard. The outbuilding will be set back 1,064 feet from the road and won't be visible except in winter. I'm assuming that's you guys. That's all.
Yes.
Come on up. All right, so you had submitted some maps and they were horrible. Like that's what they look like when we die. So.
This is a little better. And we have that survey.
Okay, do you have a survey map? Do you have?
He staked it out for us, but he didn't have time to actually make an actual survey map. And he placed the stakes 85 feet from the edge of the property as well.
Okay.
You
So
did.
just give us a quick rundown right
Yeah.
here, where the house is, where the building is, something that you can just catch on if you want.
So, this is the house right here.
Mhm.
This is where the building's going. And, this is South Street right here.
Okay.
So this is, and honestly, I think in the winter you won't even see it. This is really thick group of trees here, and this is a wetland.
In the statement, in the summary statement, that statement visible in the winter.
Mhm.
This is South Street here. This is completely invisible all 4 seasons. That statement about being visible is this neighbor here. We have a forest of mature and young trees. It is generally invisible, even in the winter, but this is possible they might. That was the comment about
Okay, when you say trees, apple trees, evergreens,
evergreen, maple.
okay, so
No apple.
not a forest, okay.
Yeah.
But it's wetland, we never get that.
Correct.
Correct.
Never get cut down.
Is this a Caruso property?
Yeah.
Used to be true, okay, okay. Okay,
So when we took over the old Caruso farm, and we were able to speak with Nick Jr. before we passed, and then, or Nick Senior.
back to Nikki Judge.
He would take us through the property, and he would let us know where the most arable land was, and what they had experienced with most rocky soil. And so when we were making the decision of where to put an outbuilding, we wanted to stay away from flood zones for the structure itself, but then also not put it on any arable land so that we would have as much land as possible to be able to farm. So he talked about how this area was the worst area on the entire property because it was rocky, nothing could grow, nothing grew well. It also happens to be at the higher elevation of the entire property. It's still not viewable from the road, but that it gave us this is the one and only place to put it.
Is this, excuse me, is this, you built the house 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
So way in the back?
Yeah, the house,
Because
so.
This is a high ground, this is an L shape, and the
And
rest was.
the contractor was,
Okay.
okay,
Which is why it kind of went on a little longer than we hoped to.
no, I got 7 years.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of the outbuilding? Using this outbuilding for?
Half for storage and half for farming content, for the next generation of apple trees to grow.
Right.
Okay.
So we're really.
So-
we're really-
Wow, so you're gonna grass,
So these trees
A
are
lot of
100,
different things.
these trees are 120. But, the crew was able to help identify it, and, the desire to do that is probably very slim, although we can start to do that. There's still some 1902, 1903 that have been coming back. We've been letting the land was abandoned, more or less, the farm was abandoned for about 6 years. So before we started to clear out brambles around the apple trees, they said that they were dead, but they're not dead, and they're producing apples. But we're just interested to see what's happening, and by doing that, we were able to, have evidence of that original grape.
Wow.
So we have some interesting ideas of what we want to do, but we certainly want to continue the story of this apple farm into the future and consider lucky to land.
so are you an agricultural operation?
Well, this is an abandoned ag, and yes, we have started a farm, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider us,
Is it an ag
Okay.
zone?
functioning farm.
Well,
Yeah.
right,
That's why we need it.
right, it's an ag zone, but they're not an agricultural operation. So, Anthony, that trips a different set of criteria, right? If they're not an agricultural, they're afforded more benefit if they are an agricultural operation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so,
Everything is owned under our farm name. Everything is under the farm.
yeah, but you have to actually be a farm.
But we have to get the outbuilding, the one thing kind of feeds into the other. So we're we're kind of trying to do everything at once to do it in order too.
That's the problem, we're developing this, we need the buildings, farm, and continue what we're. You know, and if honestly, if we knew that, it seems like the crux of the problem is it's in front of the house.
It is.
Which is, you know, I hate to think that I should have put the house there, in the building
So
there.
that was.
Right.
I mean, everything that we did had a lot of thought and a lot of reasons behind it.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Speaking to all the farmers that we did this with.
Look, my point being, if it were an agricultural operation, it would be exempt.
But they, and I did talk to Chris and Christine, they came into the office and we talked about, you know, it's ag zone, but if you want to go to, farms and markets, and then you can get your farm,
Right, you can become an agricultural operation and then actually
right,
you wouldn't need to be here.
that's right.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one thing that we thought, okay, but, okay.
So so also they asked, for, you know, to do a site visit. So you drive out there, and where this proposed building is, it's gotta be 1,000 feet off the road.
Yeah, 1,000.
When you go by it, there you go. When I was, so when you go by it, John, you don't even know where, you can't even see where actually the building is go.
Right.
That far.
And again, all of this is plays into our determination of
Front yard.
a front yard. You fall into a different criteria if you're an agricultural operation. Like I said, you wouldn't need to be here. So by saying it's going to be a farm or whatever, that doesn't really play into our decisions, or we can't really weigh that for what it's going to be. It's what it is. Right now, it's a building in the front yard.
Even though it's abandoned. I mean.
No, ma'am, I'm not denying it. I'm just telling you what the process is. It's a process. So I don't wanna tell you, yes, no, yeah, you can, absolutely. I just need you guys to draw me a little picture.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
We might see this next month.
But just that explains to you what the process is. So
Yeah.
we love farms, right? This is rural community, it's what we're all about. But we can't look at it as it's going to be a farm. We have to look at it as a building in a front yard.
How you vote is based on what it's zoned as right now.
What it is,
You're gonna,
right.
so
what it is right now.
they're gonna think about it.
And the fact that it is so far off the road, there's a bunch of criteria that go into it. It's a balancing test, and we'll go through that whole thing. So what I think we'd like to see, what I'd like to see is a survey map with topo. Because you were saying, you know, there's some wet areas, this is a higher piece of ground,
Yes.
that would help.
Yeah.
There's also, you go on Ulster County website, it'll tell you the type of soils that are on your land. So if you're saying arable soil or whatever, if you can provide us with that, it gives you, and again, not because it's a farm building, but because you don't want to put it in a floodplain or a low-lying area. The more information you can provide to us, the better we can evaluate our decision or your application. So does the board have any questions for the applicant? Anything they want to see, by next meeting?
Not me, I know the property.
Okay. And if you could, a mock-up of the building, what it's gonna look like, dimensions, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
something like that would help.
Yeah.
Right. So at this time,
Should you apply for an exemption to be a farm? I mean,
well, they're not a farm.
like, you can't,
You gotta become a farm before you do.
I mean, they have milking cows or beef or, you
You
know.
know, well,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be
yeah,
there, it's just
right.
trying to get there.
Well, a heifer.
Yeah, there you go.
How did you have? It's It's chasing your tail.
But you have to-
It's extended on it.
That's the
And
problem.
that's,
And what's their definition?
Pretty long. Yeah, you have to be a tail threshold.
Like, can you tell him?
I think you need to do that for 3 years in a row.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know, it's a good system because it prevents someone from saying, hey, you know what, we're farm.
Yeah.
We want this, we want this, and then they get it and we're not a farm. So it's,
I get
the
why.
system, right, the system works.
I just thought it was-
So,
And we are lucky enough to own the property next to that as well. Yeah.
so what I think the first step we should have is if you guys can provide us with the information we've asked for. I'd like to entertain a motion to set a public hearing for our next meeting. Bill?
I think so.
All in favor? Aye.
I have one
Okay.
question. You said you own a property next door?
Yeah.
Separate deed?
What's that?
Separate deed?
Yes.
But they don't need a setback. I mean, they're surely going,
Sounds like he's got an idea.
Can you put it on?
no, because you can't have it. You can't just have a building, right? You can't just have a building that right. So
Oh.
it's an easier ask for a front yard than a house.
I'll put it on.
No, I just.
Right, and
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe you misunderstood. I completely didn't say we were against it. I'm just telling you what the process is.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, I love it.
So if no one has any other,
bring basically topals,
Yeah.
letterman,
Just everything. We can put- Yeah, I've got a picture of what the building is. Yeah. We made it brown specifically, to kind of one day.
get an orange to 4 foot, and raise it about 6.4 feet off the ground. And take pictures from the road.
Oh, and that's where the roof is, and if it's an orange wall, you can't do that.
Well, you can
That's where you
Well, we have people who've been their property on the river,
Yeah,
and they place balloons all over the whole vineyard. And then we're on the other side of the river and took pictures of the whole thing
oh, to show,
to show
yeah,
the concept from being visible.
right.
So that's another thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we actually wanted to do that for this
again-
meeting.
and again, the more information you provide, the better it is.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
When is the next? When would this be?
Second Thursday, or
Oh, it's always on the second Thursday.
Yeah,
date,
not off the top of my head.
okay, so see you guys in December.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Got it?
Thank you. Yeah.
It would be
It's over to-
Yeah.
don't guarantee much Christmas.
Minutes to approve. October, I reviewed the minutes, I don't see anything needs to be adjusted. They're very thorough, actually. Very, very thorough. Yeah.
Not as good as I did, but.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the October 13th minutes as submitted. Aye.
Aye.
All right. One last thing, entertain a motion to adjourn. Bill, you got it. Paul, you second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. See everyone in December.
No more. Maybe, next meeting.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, Rob. Good seeing you.
Same here. Take care, guys.
Good year.